It's Siman Kuf Pei Hey. Yeah.
Tav Kuf.
Page Tav Kuf Tezain. You're almost there. Tav Kuf Tezain. What's better when people are doing Birchas Hamazon? Is it better that they do Birchas Hamazon in English, or is it better that they do Birchas Hamazon in loshon kodesh? Obviously, someone understands loshon kodesh. We should use loshon kodesh for many reasons, including the fact that it's very hard to translate. Translate it. The question is someone doesn't know loshon kodesh. Double question. What's better? They should do Birchas Hamazon in English or in loshon kodesh? And then the question is, are they yoitze? If they don't understand loshon kodesh and they said it in loshon kodesh, are they yoitze or not?
But the avad is yotze, but better off to understand the mekavana and to understand what you say.
So what's better? Should you say in loshon kodesh or in English?
English.
You say in English. Okay, the Alter Rebbe agrees with you. Done. Case closed. We finished the shir. It's very mechudish. The Alter Rebbe, over here in the footnote, spends a lot of time going through all the Rishonim to prove his point. In Learning Shulchan Aruch, there's many that don't learn the way that the Alter Rebbe makes his point very clear. So let's learn it inside. A person should say it with a loud voice. And yes, I brought the Birchas Hamazon, all the other things of Birchas Hamazon. Grab a book right here. It's on page Tov Kuf Tes Zayin. Give it to me. Here.
Thank you. Ask him the question. Let's see what he answers.
What's better, to mention English or in loshon kodesh?
Birchas Hamazon.
I don't think I've ever benched in. I've read the paragraphs in English, but I think I don't know loshon kodesh.
Let's read it.
You understand everything?
Let's see what the Alter Rebbe says. Siman Kuf Pei Hey, you came perfect time. Sif Allah Birchas Hamazon and Meretz B'chol Loshon. You could say Birchas Hamazon in every language you would like. Shenemo Beirachtas Hashem. The Goyim, as the pasuk continues, B'chol Loshon Shatam Mavarach. That's what the Gemara says. It's not the Rishonim say it's not the extra word, because there's no extra word. It says it's with this week's parsha. There's no extra words in the pasuk. It's just that's what the pasuk says. You should thank the Eibishter.
Any language.
So there's no specific language that you need to thank. The mitzvah is not to say certain words. The mitzvah is to say thank you, Hashem, for the food you gave me. So what difference is it in the language, if it's in English or in Spanish, if it's in Latin or in Greek? The Eibishter said, thank. The Torah says, thank the Eibishter. Every language where you can give thanks to Hashem, That's it. That's the language you could use. If he doesn't understand that language, he's not yoitze. Even b'loshon HaKodesh, if he doesn't understand, he's not yoitze. Here is the contentious point where the Alter Rebbe makes his big point in footnote number 5, bringing all the Rishonim. The Alter Rebbe holds that all the Rishonim hold that way. Some poskim don't hold that way. But the Alter Rebbe holds that every Rishon he brings, starting from the Rabbi Yochanan, the Rosh, and the Rashba, and the Tur, and the Ramban, everyone, that according to this opinion that you have to understand, it doesn't make a difference which language it is. Why is it contentious? Because the Gemara says that by Megillah, the Gemara says that you can read it in any language. However, the master key, the Gemara says in the Megillah Daf Yudches, that the master key is loshon kodesh. You could do it. Even anyone can be yoytze of loshon kodesh. So Rashi says the Rosh. We don't have it in our Rashi. The Rosh says that Rashi said from this that everything there's a master key. The master key is loshon kodesh. Spanish. You read the Megillah in Spanish. If you're in Latin America, if you're from Spain, you're yoytze. If you're from North America, you don't understand Spanish, you're not yoytze. You read it in Mandarin. You're from China, you understand Mandarin, you're yoytze. You know, you're not yoytze. Arabic. You're from Africa. You're from the Middle East. You understand Arabic. You're yoytze. You're not yoytze. But one language, the Gemara says, a master key. Everyone's yoytze, and that is loshon kodesh. And Rashi said that this rule applies everywhere. This rule applies everywhere, also for Birchas Hamazon included. All the Rishonim disagree with Rashi. They say no. Only by the Megillah, this applies to the Megillah. Because it's Pirsumei Nisa, as long as we have all the Eden coming to Shul, as long as it's in Loshon Kodesh, there's Pirsumei Nisa. But if it's another language, you really have to know the story. But when it comes to Birchas Hamazon, you really have to know the language. That's what the Rabbi Yochanan says here, and that's what the Rashba says here, and that's what the Ramban says here, and that's what the Rosh says, and that's what the Tur says. And they all say you have to. That's where they say the women that are listening to their husbands read, they're not yoytze, unless they know what's going on and they understand the bracha. They have to know loshon kodesh, and they also have to understand the bracha. Otherwise, they're not yoytze. Therefore, better that the women should do Birchas Hamazon in their language, not in loshon kodesh. In those days, presumably the men knew loshon kodesh, and the women didn't go to school, so they didn't know loshon kodesh. They knew the local language.
They didn't have Beis Yaakov.
They didn't have Beis Yaakov. So they knew Ladino or they knew Yiddish. They knew German or they knew Italian, but they didn't know Loshon Kodesh. So Tosfos says that the women, Tosfos says it, the Rosh says it, the Rabbi Yochanan says it, the women that are listening to it, they're not yoytze. It doesn't matter that it's Loshon Kodesh. It doesn't help that it's Loshon Kodesh, because they don't understand Loshon Kodesh. We're holding in the top line of page Tav Kuf Yud Zayin. They're not yoytze. Kivin Sheni Mavin Tevis Abrach Shemaitzim. People doesn't understand the words. Doesn't understand. Skip the brackets. Even though a person woman understands, or the person that doesn't know Lashon Kodesh understands who the brach is for, they have a mind to thank Hashem. The Alter Rebbe says further. The Alter Rebbe says further. Chidush. Alter Rebbe says, if you understand Hebrew, say a person understands Hebrew, he knows Hebrew, but in time of benching, he's thinking about something else. He's not thinking about the words he's saying. He's thinking about his mind is. His words are saying, the machine is moving, and the words are coming out of his mouth, but his mind is elsewhere. Alter Rebbe says it's the same problem. You don't understand what you're saying. It's not a scoreboard. Oh, he's a big scholar. He knows Lashon Kodesh, so he's yoytze. But right now you're not thinking the words. So what's the difference between you and someone who doesn't know the words? The same thing. It's even worse because a person who doesn't know Lashon Kodesh is trying, at least then the general thought is that we're thanking Hashem, but they don't understand the words. But this guy who is thinking about his business and other stuff, they're not yoitza. The women and the ignoramus that don't understand Lashon Kodesh, they must do it in their language. It's not going to help to hear it from someone else in Lashon Kodesh. They have to make it in their language. WEVD New York, the station that speaks your language.
How about the zimun? When you answer zimun, you have to understand what the Zaman said.
I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'm not sure. It's a good question. Well, maybe by next week I'll have the answer. Presumably the same din. I don't know. No, I'm sorry. Oh, this is the first opinion. In the second opinion, which is Rashi's opinion, they say Lashon Kodesh is the master key. You understand? You don't understand? You're always Yoitze. It's the other languages you have to know. Therefore, they're Yoitze if they listen or they say it in Lashon Kodesh. Again, that's the common minig. It would be worthwhile to be stringent like the first opinion, because the first opinion really is most of the Rishonim. The minig is like Rashi, but all the other Rishonim say otherwise. Okay, so now, bottom line, if you say Birchas Hamazon in Lashon Kodesh and you don't understand, according to Rashi you're Yoitze, according to all the other Rishonim you're not Yoitze. The Alter Rebbe says the minig is to be mekel and to rely on Lashon Kodesh, but really a person should be mach. That's only if they're Yoitze or not. But no one disagrees that it would be preferable that they should say it in their language. That's no question, the way the Alter Rebbe presents it. So therefore, if you have to ask people that speak English and they don't know Lashon Kodesh, what is preferable? Preferable, according to all opinions, according to the Alter Rebbe, English. Now, if they used Lashon Kodesh, when the Gemara says Lagabe Megillah that Lashon Kodesh is a master key, and I don't care you understand it or not, you're Yoitze the Megillah. And Rashi says that applies all to the Birchas Hamazon. All the other Rishonim say it doesn't apply to Birchas Hamazon. So what's the din? So the Alter Rebbe says really you should be machmer. But if you're mekel, the common practice is to be mekel, and they were Yoitze.
They bring it even better from preemption on this. It was the Auschwitz from the Torah. It says the Marine loshon.
Kriyishma is loshon.
Exactly. So that's an even better proof of the law.
No, the question here obviously could do loshon. That's not a question. The question is, could a person that doesn't understand Lashon Kodesh, if they're Yoitze by saying Lashon Kodesh? That's the question here. A person that doesn't understand Lashon Kodesh. So the Gemara says by Megillah that you're Yoitze, because there's Pesumei Nisa. And Rashi says that applies also to Birchas Hamazon.
How is it Pesumei Nisa if nobody understands it?
I don't know if it's standing a pshat in the Gemara and Megillah. So we have to. That's glata good kasha.
But they're all sitting together. So while we're sitting here, everybody knows the story in English.
Okay. Okay. But the main thing is what Rashi wants to say from there is that applies everywhere, and all the other Rishonim disagree. They say no, it applies only by Megillah, it doesn't apply by Birchas Hamazon.
So I'm just curious, do we have any information that how things were done in the Middle Ages, like in the Rishonim?
In the Rishonim, they all say that the women are listening to the men when they're saying a Lashon, and they're saying a Lashon HaKodesh, and it's the wrong thing. They're doing a mistake. But they're quoting it as the common minig. Tosfos, for example, he brings here Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis says the women Noshim Shalonu are listening to the husbands. doing Birchas Hamazon, they're doing the wrong thing. It's a mistake. And the Rosh says a similar loshon. Rabbi Yochanan says, and these are all the Rishonim.
Also, all these Rishonim will say that it's better. You should say it in the vernacular.
Right.
They just say that you really should do it, but it's not being done.
Right. Yeah.
And women don't always hear the husbands. They'll say when the husbands are out of the house or they go blocked or something.
Right.
What about Birkat Hamazon?
I don't know. They don't say. They just say that the women by us are listening to the husbands, and that's a mistake. They should say it in their own language.
How about the short Birkat Hamazon?
Huh?
They have a short Birkat Hamazon for a woman. She can say loshon kodesh even if you don't understand.
The short you have to say for sure in your language. Barich Rachmana is like what it says that has to be in your language. Okay. So therefore, it's for sure a good idea when you have guests on Shabbos to have
Both language.
right, that you should have Birchas Hamazon in both languages, and it's a very good thing.
I had some people ask me, you have an English Birkat Hamazon?
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. But some people think it's not cool. It's cool to read it only in loshon kodesh. But the truth is
I don't
that
understand what you're saying.
right. The cool thing is to say it in the language you understand.
Yeah.
Called okay. So again, the way the Alter Rebbe understands it, for sure better to say it in your language that you understand. The machlokes is if you were yoytza by saying it in loshon kodesh. Rashi said yes, and the other says no. L'chatchila, it's better to say it in the other languages. Called it Birchas Hamazon. This is all by Birchas Hamazon. Aval b'shar brachas, all other brachas, ben Birchas and ben Birchas Hamitzvos, all other brachas which are all derabona. Afila be kiddush l'Shabbos Shemoneh, even kiddush. Yeshem, and there is an opinion that says sheyotzin deichavasa b'chol loshon afila einem even, that you could do it in every language even if he doesn't understand. Even if he doesn't understand, you can do it in every language. Very, very mekel. V'chein b'halal. Only there's a few exceptions according to this opinion. Shenke, Megillah, the Kriya Shema, Tefillah. These three things that you have to understand. The Megillah, Namar Ba'Valei Ksavam L'Shayim L'Ma'ad Shar L'Shana Shana Makirim. By the Megillah, if you're not doing it in Lashon Kodesh, you have to understand the language. U'Bekrish Menem Shema B'Choloshin Shata Shemei Kolam Maven. You have to understand it. I believe Meinem Maven Afil Lashon Kodesh. If you don't understand Shema, Lo Yotzei Dechivat Selam Kain. And Shema, he has to understand at least the beginning, because that was the mitzvah's kavanah. Mitzvah's kriya yochel kam up b'sheini meivel loshon kam b'halal megillah. But the mitzvah kavanah, you have to. Kavanah means you understand the words you're saying. If you don't understand the words you're saying, it's not kavanah. V'chein tefillah hoyel v'kavanah makeves tefillah b'di'evet b'rachar rishayna dinake krishma. But all other brachas, if he doesn't have kavanah, doesn't matter. So therefore, this opinion says all other brachas doesn't matter. Lashon kodesh, not lashon kodesh. You understand? You don't understand? It really doesn't matter. But there's another opinion. No, shekol brachas and kebechas hamazon. All brachas are kebechas hamazon. Sheni yitzedei chavasik shena mevin aloshon. That he doesn't, not yotzef, if he doesn't understand. According to Rashi's opinion, at least Lashon Kodesh is a master key. But Levisor Rishayna, according to all the other Rishayna, I feel Lashon Kodesh, even Lashon Kodesh, you're not yotzef. What the logic here is that everything Chachamim made at Takana, they always made it should be similar to Torah. So this opinion says all brachas are the same thing. And it's interesting the way the Alter Rebbe understands these Rishonim, which is that all brachas are really just like the Torah says, when you eat and you're satisfied, you have to make a bracha. All the brachas that Chacham said are similar to this. just that the food that you eat and afterwards you make a bracha b'chas hamazon is a din deratoira. And if you didn't get full, or the bracha before you eat, is the Rabbanon, but called the tikkun the Rabbanon gain their rice. And just like the bracha, when the bracha is not just a formality, words we say, hacha pacha, words that go out of the mouth. They have to. The bracha means that we give gratitude to Hashem. So if you don't understand the words you're saying, or you understand the words you're saying but you're not paying attention, this opinion says you're not yoitza. You're not yoitza. Mashenken b'halal l'megillah. There's an exception by halal l'megillah. Shem b'mela mitzvah kriya la'akev. It's only over there. The main thing is to say the words. V'chein b'krishma m'posek krishma v'eilach yochel gam kol aborach al kriya af she'enem mei v'losh kodesh k'mo she'amoret tziyadeh likra b'toyra oilam aborach aliyah b'tziv af b'she'enem mei v'koyer elsei. Just like b'frat b'zman hazeh she'oila eina koyer b'atzmei. Especially these days, in the olden days, the person that went up, the real mitzvah was that a person goes up to the Torah, makes the brach, and he reads. That was the takona.
The Yemenites still do that,
right? So especially with Zman Hazeh, that we say that the person makes a bracha and he doesn't understand, and he's yoitza. So we have to say that the Arminic today is based on the fact that the main thing is to say the words. So with Hallel and the Megillah and reading the Torah, we say it's, as long as you said the words, you said the words. Avol kol ha-brachas, but when we're thanking Hashem Yisbarach with a bracha for the potato knish, and for the babka, and for the frank, and for the licorice, and for the popcorn. So over here, it's not a formality of saying words. Lo tiknoisum kedei likroisen. It wasn't just the takana to say the words. To thank Hashem. If he doesn't understand the words, or he's thinking something else. He didn't do anything. Even if he said loshon kodesh. That's this opinion. Skip the brackets, the long brackets. We'll get back to it in a minute. Well, in halacha says the Alter Rebbe, Safek brachas lahakol di'evet. If you already made the bracha, you didn't have kavana, or you don't know the language, that's your yoitze. Aval lachatchila tzorich lizor me'oid bekavanas habracha. A person should very, very much be careful of the kavanah of the bracha. Befrat bebichas hamazon, kiva she'eshem neshafila di'ovet lo yotze. There is an opinion that says even di'ovet you're not yoitze. So you should be very careful. So, again, let's summarize this machloikus here. All the other brachas that a person makes, all the other brachas, not the brachas deraisa. Birchas hamazon is a bracha deraisa, but then there's another 100 brachas we make a day. Birchas hanenim, birchas hamitzvahs, kiddush, avdallah, all these things that are, most of them are rabbanon. So, do you have to understand and pay attention? The first opinion says no. The only time you have to pay attention is by Krishma, the first bracha of Tefillah, but otherwise you don't have to pay attention, you don't have to know the language. Second opinion says no, just the opposite. You always have to know what you're saying. Every bracha. Because called the Tikkun Rabbanan came the Raisa. The Eibishter said to make only after you eat. The Rabbanan made many other brachas, but the bottom line is if you don't understand the language, or if you're not paying attention to what you're saying, you're not yoitza. Let's learn the brackets now.
What would his opinion be about Pilat Midah?
Oh, so this is what we'll talk about right now. Just a minute, one bracket in the next paragraph. V'teves ikar abroch hein Baruch Hashem u'malchus. The Shem u'malchus is the main thing that a person has to understand. V'inyan shemavarach alach going better pri adama shakal levadoy rachem b'vechas mitzvos. Shor nusach abroch b'vechas aruchas afil teves amakvas afil di'evet going b'ris v'toyre b'vechas oretz u'malchus b'david v'yin shalom ein ma'akvas ela mirosam v'la v'nosam. The main thing is the key words of the bracha, like Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam and B'orei Pri Adama. So you have to know that there's a Eibishter, Shem and Malchus, and that you're making thanking Hashem for the popcorn, whatever it is, Adama, And there are other words you don't have to know, even if it's a long bracha. Because those extra words are not miyakiv. That's not the bracha. It's extra words in the bracha. The opening and closing word of every bracha, which is the baruch, you have to understand and pay attention when you say it. Okay. Now let's go back to the question about tefillah. According to this opinion, every bracha, if you don't understand the language, or you understand but you're not paying attention, you're not yoytze. So the question is, why is it by tefillah there's 18 brachas? The Chazal say that the only thing that's miyakiv is the beginning. The whole tefillah is one mitzvah. Gimel Rishon is ke'even shemesader shvach lefnei rabbi. Yud Gimel Amtsoy is ke'even ha'mavakesh pras merabbi. Gimel Achron is ke'even shekibul merabbi v'niftel v'noit rishus. The first 3 is giving a shevach. The last 3 is saying thank you. The middle 13 is to ask, like a servant that asks from his master the things he needs. Therefore they have to be said together. As the Chazal said, as long as a person understands, number 1, and number 2, he had kavanah in the first bracha, which is the main thing of being Masad the Shvach Shal Makem, Bepivu, Belavave, in his mouth and in his heart. So that's enough. But as long as he had kavanah in the beginning, because the whole 18 brachas is one mitzvah, so Adkan mitzvahs kavanah, Mekan ve'elech mitzvahs kriya. As long as he had kavanah in the first bracha, because that's the ikar shvach shel makim. Ava bebrachas shel krishma shekol echad mitzvah b'fnei atzma. But in the brachas of Shema, which all 7 brachas in the morning and night, there's Sheva Bayom El Alticha. There's a sachakel of 7 brachas that we say around Shema in the morning and at night. All 7 are really separate brachas. Ein avona v'kavona shel zu mayelas klum lezu. If he understands bracha number 1 and had kavona bracha number 1, it doesn't help him for bracha number 2. This all is going to explain the second opinion. So again, the way the Alter Rebbe understands here the Machlokes Rishonim, that all other brachas besides Birchas Hamazon, one opinion is very mekel. It says you don't have to understand it, and you don't have to have kavanah. The second opinion says you must understand it, and you must have kavanah. All 100 brachas you say every day, and if you don't understand, you missed the point. And the only thing is by tefillah, as long as you understand the first bracha and you had kavanah in the first bracha, it's fine.
So still, it would be better just to say the first bracha in English.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the same the first bracha in English? I just want to give you the whole thing in English.
Yeah, versteht so. Yeah.
Why is it then?
I said, I brought that up to you once, that I would make it that way, that in Orthodox schools, people should have it speak in English.
Well, there should be.
The whole thing was because of the reform.
Right.
They did it first.
Right. I think you're right. I think you have a good point. I think the whole thing that there's such a thing, I think you're right. If it wasn't for the reform that made this whole thing of this reform siddur, and that they started in German, I think you're right. It would have been different today.
Yeah, but that's been a time on the Orthodox, on the religious themselves, that they did it too before the reform.
Why when I go into school, not lunch, they constantly, everyone is saying brachas now. One guy did, another one did, another one did, another one did.
I'd like to make you crazy.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a mishigas. But I'll tell you what. From when you have to think about the timeline, from when printing presses came into being, and then there was a time when presumably most men understood loshon kodesh. There were tkufis up and down. There was tkufis when unfortunately people didn't know. but then printing was very expensive. So you have to. I guess there wasn't a large, like today. There's a big large population of frum Jews that want to do tefillah and are capable of having kavanah, but they simply don't understand loshon kodesh. And if they would do the tefillah in English, they would be much better off. Number one, they would understand the words they're saying, which according to most of the Rishonim is critical. And number two, they would help them have kavanah, because when they're saying loshon kodesh, they're having zero kavanah. But I could be at that time. It was just like printing was too expensive, or other times people knew loshon kodesh.
Along these lines, I also always wondered how it was in medieval times before they had printing, and manuscripts were very expensive and rare. So let's say the ordinary people, just the working people, how did they learn halachot even, or how did they learn to daven even?
Right. I guess then there was more. They did it more like Chazal, that there was, in the base, the people were listening to the Chazan and saying Amen.
I thought of that, but that doesn't work out so easily, because, for instance, when you were in the Milah, then you see that there were Jews living out in the fields, in the farms, and they didn't have a minyan even. Right.
Oh, it depends which periods in history. You were asking the Middle Ages. Middle Ages people were more concentrated.
But let's in time of Chazal, nothing really difficult about the time of the because they had.
Right, they had totally different.
But in time of Chazal, so they didn't have books.
Right.
And how did they live? How did they pray? How did they learn?
Okay. That's a good question.
My brother-in-law is Yemenite.
Yeah. The Yemenites, they teach the kids.
He used to have one Gemara, 20 people sitting like this. If you're sitting here, you can read from here, you can read from here, he said everybody can read any, so they can read from all over, like I'm reading from here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. The Yemenites have a different, they have, listen, every approach has its advantage. There was someone in yeshiva, someone I met now when I was traveling. He said, fellow from manager, he says, I send my kids to yeshiva a whole lifetime, I'm paying tuition. They see no results. I see these Sephardi kids, they're bar mitzvah, they get up, they know everything. They know things by heart. My kids are going a whole lifetime yeshiva, they don't know. I guess there's a different...
Incidentally, Rambam has a teshuvah about whether or not the man is allowed to teach a class of girls.
Mm-hmm.
So
you see that it was fascinating. And where was the tshuva too? Does it? Mm-hmm. On this issue, there is it was published. It was published somewhere. I've clipped it and put it in my one of my svarim, but I don't have it right now in front of me. It was the Yid Nebuch. He was in Auschwitz. He was on the line, and they asked him, "What is your profession?" So he blurted out, "I'm a professional chef. Never cooked an egg in his life. He doesn't know how to cook." But he just said it. He doesn't know what just went over him. He just said it. Gave him a job in the kitchen. He survived the war, and not only did he survive, but he helped other people survive. He hid food in his, here and there, and he helped other Yidden. He said that he felt that there was some special hand that was guiding him. He was a child, and in the Cheder came the Meir Shapiro, famous Rosh Yeshiva, legendary Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, and he told the Kinderlach, that there's a very important Beit Hativ. The Beit Hativ is Simon Kuf Beit Hativ, Simon we're learning tonight. He says that it's very important for a person to have Kavona and Birchas Hamazon. And Magen Avraham says that there is no fei in Birchas Hamazon. A person that does Birchas Hamazon b'Kavona, there'll never be in that person's life af, ketzef, anything with a fei. Furthermore, A person that says that the Birchas Hamazon with Kavana will always have food, berevach and bekovet kol yomov. Your whole life will have his mezoinus berevach and bekovet. The Bach says that a person should say it dafka from a sefer. Sefer Chassidim says that there was once a person that died early. And Sefer Chassidim, and he came to one of his friends in a dream. He said, "What's going on in that world?" So he said, "Every day they punish me because my whole life I wasn't careful in Birchas Hamazon to say, and the Birchas HaPedes. By Birchas Hamazon and Birchas HaPedes, I just blurted out the words. I didn't say B'kavanas Halev. So they say to me, you were a glutton. You just wanted to have anoah, but you weren't interested in making the bracha." So the friend said, "But you only get to be serving Gehenna for 12 months. So how are you zoichet to be for more?" So he said, "Don't worry. The first 12 months are really grueling. It's not that bad." So he said this. Meir Shapiro told this to the children, and he said that it had an incredible impression on me. From when I'm a child, I always open up a siddur and I say Birchas Hamazon b'kavanas halayv. And he said that he felt that was the special, the brocha came true. Even the gates al Malvis, even the shadow of death in Auschwitz, he had a best possible job. Relatively speaking, he had mezanois of mitzuyin le'berevachu b'kava kol yamav.
The Rebbe, when he benched, did he have a Birkat Hamazon
right
in front of him?
Always, never, ever. Even if it was a small, right? He always opened up the siddur, even if it was shahakla about in the foshes, that it would always open up the siddur and say it inside. So that the truth is that everyone agrees. All the Rishonim agree that really a person should have kavanas halayv. So now we know from the Sefer Chassidim that it's not only that this is something unique. That the person that this is a person's mission.
So we shouldn't use benches.
Therefore, we should use super benches. Benches. Why shouldn't we use benches?
I don't know. Do it in the siddur as opposed to a bench.
No, benches. Siddur is the same thing. What's the difference? A bench is
So
it's all
we'd
the
be
same
better
thing.
off doing it in English if we weren't that comfortable with the loshon?
Yeah.
It makes sense that
You can bench in the
The Eibusher will help him that all of us, after tonight's shir, that we should make the dedication to say Birchas Hamazon and all brachas with kavanas halayv, and the Eibusher should give that all of us should have mezanoisav, berevach and bekovid, and aksiva v'chsim b'toiv and ashana toiv am sukkah.